Welcome to this episode of the Strong Kind Podcast. This episode is with Alec Blenis. Alec is a hybrid athlete. He is currently pursuing a sub 2 hour and 30-minute marathon while also being like really jacked. Alec is a physicist by education and a personal trainer, amongst a lot of other things. But I just really enjoy Alec's take on fitness things. You can find him on Instagram. I'll link his Instagram in the show notes. You can also see his longer form content on YouTube. He's a smart guy that lays things out very honestly in the fitness space, which is extremely refreshing. He's also pretty jacked, pretty fast. I mean, he's really jacked and he's really fast. He's also a nice guy. So I really appreciated this conversation with Alec. I hope you do too. You can learn a lot from him. He's somebody doing a lot of cool things, both personally and professionally. And thank you so much for being here. If you're stuck in pain or injury and you want some help, want some guidance, just want to ask some questions, please reach out to me at dr.dave.strengthandkindness on Instagram. Happy to point you in the right direction, give you some guidance. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you. Peace. All right, I'm with Alec Blenis, who is somebody that I think has really been influential in the fitness space the past, I don't know, Alex, I think Alec, like I talked to you about a year ago, maybe more, and like you're clearly really smart, but like, where do you get off pouring the oil out of your peanut butter? What kind of madness is that, man?
The one of my favorite things about the internet is you can't get away with anything. People will hold you accountable. I feel like, especially as a larger creator, like even little things like what I do with the oil off the top of my peanut butter, like 100 people have something to say about it. And I think you got to have a thick skin to make it in the industry and the internet like that. But I appreciate it, because there's things that I probably wouldn't have thought of, including like maybe I should just pour that in the garbage versus down the sink. So I want to shout out all my followers. Thanks for keeping me honest and pointing out all the areas in which I'm pretty stupid.
I mean, it was just funny. Like, I really like, I could care less about like what people do, but like, man, that's just come on, keep that good, delicious, peanut butter oil fat in there. But like, it's also funny because I think I DM'd you and you're like, I've gotten the most hate on that post of probably anything I've ever freaking done. Right? It's just the ludicrousness of humans, right? But
Yeah,
no, I'm super stoked to like talk to you, and for a variety of reasons. But one of the big things that like I just think about with you, like you're clearly doing cool and hard shit, and you've also just struck a really good chord with like you post content that makes people think, and it's like it is like what fitness content could kind of be, which is like the truth, like this is the truth of the matter of maybe as being objective as like somebody can be, right? Um, but like what I guess where I always want to go with somebody like you is I want to learn like from you and like what are the principles that you really have subscribed to or learned as you've gone through like your fitness journey that you can look back on now and be like, all right, these are the big things that I focus on that I've done that like help because it's really the principles that people overlook. Like I like Dan Cleather. Do you follow Dan Cleather? Like the Little Black Book of Training Wisdom.
but yeah. hmm
Like his biggest thing is like be consistent. Like and it's so fucking boring, but it's true, right? Like if you're not consistent, none of this shit is gonna matter, right? But like it's that type of stuff that as a coach I'm constantly kind of trying to preach in good ways. Like people will get obsessed with some new thing. But like what are the principles that you like subscribe to?
That's a huge question. It's like you're kind of asking like, tell me everything you know about fitness, right? Like it's such a large, overarching question. Um, so I guess I'll just try to share some generally helpful principles, but this will be far from all encompassing. Um, I mean, it's a cliche at this point, but just like be out there in the arena doing the thing, trying hard, experimenting on yourself and on clients and things like that, because there's no substitute for just like real practical experience. Uh, I think we have to be careful with that, obviously, and like we can go too heavy into anecdotes and like turns into bro science and that kind of stuff too. So I try to balance that against best practices I see emerging in the field, with other coaches and other experts and in other disciplines. I try to use uh, you know, high quality research, meta analyses is like just like a lighthouse, out there. But I try not to put too much weight in any individual study, and I try to make sure I'm contextualizing that in the context of like the environment that I'm personally working in. I think the biggest mistake I see people make is just like going all in on one versus the other and not really balancing that like experience and evidence side of things very well. You have people that are just trying to like lift exercise protocols directly out of research papers and run those, and to me that's like absurd. Like research papers are not there to give you the exercise protocol. Like they're just trying to isolate variables so you can like better understand basically mechanisms and things like that. And that can certainly guide your decisions with exercise, but you can't just run like a study protocol and like call it a good program. And then at the same time, some people are so quick to just like toss all that stuff out and be like, oh, it was a study on 12 college students. We can't learn anything. Like exercise science is a waste of time. So I think there is a happy medium there somewhere. And that's what I try to communicate in my content is like, how do we, reconcile some of the differences we see between like best practices in the field versus some of the things we see popping up in the literature. How do we account for like research findings that don't make a lot of sense sometimes, and just being honest about like what we know, which is often very little, and what we don't actually know or are just kind of poking at and guessing at, which is oftentimes a lot more than we think it is. And I think the best way that I arrive at some of that kind of stuff is just asking a lot of questions, especially about things that people take for granted. Just like, hey, why'd you program it that way? Like, tell me kind of what you're thinking with that. And it's not like an attack of like, trying to tell people they're wrong, but just like, I think the more you ask questions about why things are being done a certain way, the more you'll find that most people have no idea why they're actually doing what they're doing. Maybe they've seen it work, but if you actually try to get most people to explain, their thought process behind something and ask why a couple times, they're like, I don't really know. Someone else did it this way, so I've been doing it this way.
Yeah.
And so that's probably my favorite thing about, fitness content creation, is just trying to dig deep enough that we start to uncover some of these things that we take for granted, and just try to learn more about the why behind some of this kind of stuff. Uh, as far as like big picture, principles of like if I could go back and start things over again or train again, myself from a younger age and that kind of thing. It is a cliche, but I'll probably say it a handful more times. I probably would have cared a lot less about optimizing certain things and probably just trained a little bit harder and a little bit more from the beginning. Spent a little bit less time in front of my spreadsheet, a little more time just like putting in the hours and stuff like that. But that's easy to say, hindsight's 2020. And I think some level of like over optimization and kind of like swinging too far in one direction to realize what doesn't matter is a necessary part of the process. And so I'm often, with my content, I don't want to just tell people, hey, this doesn't matter, and like kick their sandcastles down and be like, what are you even thinking? Like, why would you even waste your time with that? Because I think there is value in like experiencing that for yourself, and you have to try certain things to realize that they don't matter as much as you thought they did. So my goal isn't to take that experience away from people. It's just to hopefully put some guardrails on and like hopefully keep people from getting too far off track, and also just prime them to think in a slightly different way so that when they do start experimenting and seeing what works, and I'm going to try to optimize for this variable and see what happens, they have some sort of framework, to be asking the right questions, and hopefully course correct a little bit sooner, and come to good decisions on their own versus me just kind of telling them what to think. I know I brain dumped like a shit ton of stuff out you there,
No,
but
it
hopefully that
was,
more or less answered the question.
well, like you said, it like, it is kind of like, what do you know about fitness? And like, which is not the point. You basically, you figured out what I was trying to get after, which was essentially like, you want to actually be following, like, you want to be within good guidelines, right? And then you do want to experiment in ways that, like, like some of it is a big part of training is like doing something you've never done before. And like some of that is like getting outside of the realm of like the paradigms that if you just always listen to that singular code, like, Louis Simmons is just what pops in my brain. It's like if you just only take what Louis Simmons was talking about, West Side Barbell, for like gospel and you never experiment with anything else, like you're almost doing what Louis Simmons kind of said to not do, which is like not experiment, right? Um, but like you mentioned a couple of good things, or just really like the things that are thought provoking for me, and it's like the I mean, I work with a lot of people who are like rehabbing injuries or just training hard, and it's kind of the constant like tug of war between like how hard do I train, how much, how what do I need to do, and like it almost is like, is there like a perfect objective state for people, or is it just this constant like pendulum being swung between like how much can you handle, how good at auto regulating for yourself are you, right? That's what I think a lot of people really struggle with. Like, and I'll be honest too, like, I felt like pretty shitty the past like 3 months, and I've just been going back and forth in my brain. Is it like my mental state? Is it like because I have a 2-year-old that's like super busy and I have another kid on the way, or was I legitimately overtraining? And it's like it's kind of hard to fucking know. You just have to kind of like go back to like, okay, what feels good? I'm gonna stay optimistic about my movement. I'm gonna like challenge myself appropriately while like kind of respect my body, right? So and humans are just fucking crazy. Like I will say that I've been leaning into a lot of like positive affirmations, and like that sounds cheesy and stupid, but like it's helped me, I think, on one level, right? Or just even just like quote unquote um what I've tried to express with myself even is like, okay, and you have some good posts on pain, and your post on pain a couple weeks ago was like, damn, that's exactly what it is. I'm like, are you willing to change the variables and let like whatever's going to happen? Um, but I've just kind of had like, it really isn't the pain, like, because I know that pain is a complex experience, but it's like almost it's like the second arrow analogy. You get hit by the thing, but then it's the suffering that you're creating
Yeah.
about the thing, that's what I'm really trying to manage a lot of times, right? So I just rambled a lot, but talk me through some of the things you think about when it comes to like human suffering, maybe is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think um you know there's a lot of things that are universal about human experience, and having some level of like pain and suffering is definitely one of those things. And so on the one hand, I think we should normalize that for people, help them not catastrophize it and just, be like, yeah, you're a human being. Like I would expect things to kind of suck sometimes. I think that is important. However, like when we talk about, people in the fitness industry, fitness professionals, coaches, higher level athletes, people who like we live and breathe the stuff all the time. I think it's a lot easier for people like us, who are like used to training through minor aches and pains, or like we've had hundreds of workouts that we didn't want to start and we did it anyway, and then we were glad we did it. It's really easy for us like to have those conversations and say those sorts of things because we've had so many like positive experiences, working through pain and discomfort and things like that. Um, but I think we sometimes forget that like for the average person hearing some of this kind of stuff who's not, into fitness as much as we are, or people who just are kind of like on the lower end of the bell curve in terms of like the genetic lottery for things like chronic pain, um, pain sensitivity, things like that, where like stuff like really fucking sucks for them in a way that we don't understand and can't really relate to on a personal level. We have to be really careful with how we communicate some of those topics to those people. And that's why I think sometimes it's really hard to have these conversations on social media, and we talk about load management and working through pain and stuff like that. We tend to get a lot of straw mans. We get a lot of like emotional responses. Um, and it can be very, very difficult. So I try to take a fairly compassionate and nuanced approach, especially to that kind of stuff. Uh, on social media, I tend to be fairly direct, which some people have a hard time with. But when it comes to like pain and rehab stuff, I go an extra mile to be like extra nuanced and compassionate just because I know it is one of those like huge vulnerabilities and areas where people often get taken advantage of in the fitness space when they are at their most vulnerable and desperate and just like looking for answers and looking for solutions. But I think if I had to summarize all of it into kind of like, okay, what's like your first, action step for someone who's dealing with some of this kind of stuff is you just want to like push over that first tiny domino and have your first tiny win and just like begin cultivating positive experiences with doing things that you don't initially feel like doing. And I think as a coach, it's very important that we find things that we can go into like a very high probability of success. For me, I've trained through discomfort and stuff so many times that if I have my quad tendon is flared up at the moment, right? Like I'll walk in the gym and take a gamble on it where it's like, 50-50, I feel worse walking out of the gym than when I walked into the gym to train it. But that's okay because like I have developed so much trust in my body. Whereas for someone who's dealing with some of this kind of stuff for the first time, I'm not going to take a 50-50 gamble. I'm going to try to find a 98%, odds of success because it's so important that we start building some of those small victories and small wins. Because then once you do accumulate, progressively larger and larger wins and people build more trust in their body, eventually get into to a totally different space, but it can take years. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of us forget how long of a process that was, and we can be a little bit strong in our messaging, and it just kind of turns people off from the whole idea, unfortunately, and leads to a lot of unnecessary arguing.
It's you brought up two really good general concepts. The first is the amount of being Icarus that anybody particularly wants to do on any given workout or any given like training block or XYZ. It's like, there is an element of just like, and it's hard, like, because, like, there's listen to your body, but like, if your body, like, you don't know how to fucking listen to your body, like, and what that even means, right? It takes a tremendous amount of feel and practice, right? And yeah, like, I mean, it's crazy because I just kind of expressed that, like, I'm starting to come out of the funk that I was in. But throughout that whole time period, I played tennis like 2 times a week for an hour. I like trained and still showed up to the gym, and I didn't, I wasn't doing like necessarily how I wanted to, and I'm not like trying to be generally kind with my self-talk, but I'm pretty mediocre at a lot of this shit. But it's still like I'm still training hard and I'm still having fun and I'm still moving my body, and that's what's important to me at the end of the day. But like um but just the amount of I can see somebody with a like going through a similar experience who doesn't have the education, doesn't have like the reps that I have, like shutting down completely, which kind of on a logical sense kind of makes sense if you're not really informed or you don't have a whole lot of support or guidance for some of this stuff, because when you're not feeling good, you kind of assume that like, yeah, my body, and you know what, I always say, like, your body is kind of trying to communicate with you, but you don't know how to like interpret those things, right? And the other crazy thing though is like I felt really good exercising. I felt really good doing, I felt at least pretty good exercising and doing these things. It was honestly the in between spaces that where my body was like it's almost like it's so hard because, attention is a wild thing, but like movement is like a meditation for me. And I could like zone in and have fun and like kind of just chill out and trust my body in those moments. But it's like, bending over to unload the dishes, my hips feel janky, and like, what the hell is that about, right? And that's where people get lost, right? A lot of times. Um, and then there's just the other piece is like all this shit takes time. And if I don't know if you've noticed, we live in a culture where we don't value like anything being slow cooked, or taking that much time, right? And
Yeah.
that's, it's the nature of the beast too. It's like you work with busy adults who frankly want a quick solution to their long-standing problem, right? And that can be tricky to navigate, right?
Yeah, this is maybe more broadly philosophical, but I think just with how many things in our society and culture have advanced, and like, if you want something to be done faster, you just like pay more money and get another worker on the project or whatever. Like there's so much many things that we can just kind of like expedite with money or with brute force or technological advancements and all sorts of things like that. combine that with a culture of like, hey, what do you want to watch tonight? You just like scroll through endless options on Netflix. Like there's just always something there. And so like you just keep scrolling until you find the perfect thing. Whereas like before, right? You like went to Blockbuster, you are only going to wander around the store for so long for you just like pick something, go home and try it, and you'll probably get through it.
Yeah.
Um, but like now things have gradually become so much different, and I think that kind of like bleeds over into other things like physiology, that you can't just pay more, you can't just like have another person work on you to get through it faster. You can't just like swipe through, recovery modalities until you find the perfect one. And I think that's really hard for people because we're so used to it now in so many other areas of our life. Like if we want something bad enough or frustrated enough at something, there's usually something that can be done. But with physiology, it's like too bad, dude. Like it's gonna take what it takes. The time is gonna be what it's gonna be. Uh, and unfortunately, we have so many like, you know, even just like corporate interests of people that want to take advantage of people and be like, hey, we got a bunch of people with knee pain out there. I bet we can make some money off of that. Um, and that sucks. That's the thing that probably makes me the most upset is just like how everything is seen as a business opportunity, in the fitness and wellness space. And sometimes like people just need someone to listen to them or tell them, no, don't do anything. Just give it time. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
now it's always like, well, I have a program for that, or I have a device for that, or I have a supplement for that. And it's always something that costs people money that they often don't have. And that pisses me off like beyond belief. I wish we could just be more honest with people. And also just like gradually shift the culture around that back to like understanding natural history, and there's things that we often can't change.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, I'll be honest too, with my own current wave, the biggest thing I trusted is that I had been feeling pretty darn good in January and February of this year. And I'm like, all right, just figure out what was going on there, and why you were feeling pretty good, and figure out what has kind of changed. And the reality of it is just a lot of external stressors and a lot of internal frustrations kind of compounding. And I made tweaks, and I'm continuing to make tweaks. I'm talking to a therapist, like, like I'm doing things that humans should do. Uh and I'm not frustrated about like work as much as I'm just actively shutting things down. Like I'm just doing the shit that but it's not simple. It's not. I have a book I have a book by like Dan Martell behind me, like Buy Back Your Time. Like again, nothing against that book. Like, and systematization and refinement of stuff is important, but like at the end of the day, I've also just connected with like it feels pretty good to have an actual fucking purpose, and to like I will be honest, like I think having kids and a wife and just like wanting to have a good life, like it does require economic currency, right? But like that feels a whole lot better when you have a good purpose and you're like, again, doing it for reasons that hopefully you've established as like, not just selling 40-year-old dudes $15,000 lifestyle packages with testosterone because they're in a fucking rough spot, because they're busy, they're stressed out, they're overweight, and they're struggling with a lack of community, right? Like they don't have social connections, right? So,
Yeah.
like, good segue. Good, just go run a marathon, dude, brother. Just go run a marathon. But anyway, good segue into like I hadn't even seen this post until I just pull up people's Instagram and when I'm kind of talking, because it kind of gives me like but bits to jump onto. But like you have built a pretty awesome personal brand, business, however the hell you want to call it, with what I would consider to be like an honest approach to like doing this shit, which is cool. Um, and obviously go check out this post on an Alex Instagram feed. But and it's you guys, this is not like an overnight success story. Like I remember you being like is it Murph? The Murph
Yeah,
world record holder? Like that was like 10 years ago, wasn't it?
that was back in like 20 that was like 5 years ago. Yeah,
Okay,
time
so
is weird though. Yeah.
yeah, but like it's been, you've been doing fitness and training and for a long time. And like this is one of the questions, like, do you ever have a chip on your shoulder about being like a personal trainer? Or is that just not something that's ever been like, no, I don't give a shit. Like I like doing what I'm doing. I like this stuff. Like there's a lot of physios and chiropractors and all sorts of people who are like, I'm just this, and like, what's kind of your response to that? Or even trainers, like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, when I first I went to college for physics. I wanted to be
Yeah,
a
you're a like,
physicist.
this guy's a physicist. Like, I mean, I'm gonna call you a physicist. Like, but
That's
you're
fair.
clearly, it's pretty cool.
So that was and part of the motivation behind that was like I wanted to be something that was like I wanted to be something that was cool. And like I wanted to be something that one I could make a lot of money with, but also sounded cool and like I feel like I'm pretty smart and like it's a pretty smart person thing to do. Like I just kind of liked like just the like being called a physicist like sounds pretty sick, right? And that's
Yeah,
just like kind of was
yeah,
my thought process like going into college. And so when I decided to pivot to fitness, I launched like a kind of coaching business on the side while I was still in school. Ended up doing quite well, and then I ended up just going all in on that. Um, that was a little bit weird, to go from like thinking I was going to be one thing to like, oh, I'm just a personal trainer or whatever, and it did feel like that for a little bit. um, but like the older I've gotten, it sounds like a silly thing to say because if you're like changing your opinions, you're probably getting older in the process. But the the older I've gotten, the more frustrated I get with just how much society like ties people's self-worth to like productivity standards. And like if you make more money, you're a better person, or you have a fancier title, you're a better person. And like to me, the whole point of life really is just kind of like hanging out. Um, at least I think that's what it should be. Like I don't think it needs to be that deep. Um, we're just animals, you know. You
yeah.
ask your dog like, "Hey, what's the point of life?" They're like, "I don't know, like treats and big sticks." Like, fuck if I know.
My
Like I
dog
feel
just
like
wants to be fucking petted constantly and go play, right? Like, I'm with you. Like, that's all she wants.
Exactly. Like no one's asking your dog like, what do you do for work or whatever the hell. Like and it sounds so stupid to like say that out loud, and it's kind of like one of those well obviously sorts of things, but I try to internalize that as much as I can and just like completely like dissociate like my value and my worth as a human from like whatever my title is. And I think how people talk to you, or whether people respect you, or how much people respect you on account of, those titles or whatever, says a lot more about them as a person than it does about you. And so, I actually got this originally from Jordan Syatt, my friend Jordan. He was uh, telling me that like he's very successful, by the way. Like, dude makes an unreal amount of money on his platform. Super successful fitness influencer. Um, but he just tells people he's a personal trainer. He's not like, yeah, I'm a fitness influencer. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
run this business or
yeah.
whatever. Like he's like, yeah, I'm a personal trainer. Um, and I was like, I fucking love that. And I've done the same thing ever since. Like I try to avoid telling people like that I'm a fitness influencer, like online coach or whatever the hell. I'm just like, yeah, I'm a PT. Um, and like some people are like, oh, it's like, okay, well,
Well,
that's
it's just the body
enlightening.
of evidence. It's just like, because I'm with you. It's like the more I've seen somebody like church up like their LinkedIn, like what they are type of. I was literally thinking about this last night. Like, such and such is such and such, and they have done this, this, and this. It's like the more I see that, the more I'm like, okay, like I get that this game has become. But and then and I literally had a client this morning sign up with me, and she appreciates that I have a physical therapy doctorate, right? She's worked with a personal trainer before, and like again, it's like there's such an individual game, and she's like, I value them, I like them, and I'm a little older, and I just do have a little bit more moans and groans, and I just wanna she really just wants to have a conversation, and she also has BPPV, but so she has like some vertigo symptoms and stuff. And like, I'm like, yeah, I can help you with that. Like that's probably something that a lot of personal trainers aren't really going to venture into. But a lot of it's just like being a human and being like, I don't know all the answers, but I'm happy to help you and like go investigate and come
Yeah.
back and talk things through and like let you own the situation with me being a helper. right? Like, I'm gonna be 100% honest. A lot of times when people come to me with injuries and shit, I'm like, I don't know exactly what the hell's going on, but like, let's look at your training history. Let's look at the tissue that you're talking about hurts, and like, let's start to figure stuff out, right? And but like, it really has become. It's like the same thing you were mentioning earlier about just like it's like, yeah, we there's so much content out there that, and so many people perceptually doing stuff, that people think how they stand out is by like almost niching into like a super specific corner of the world for problem solving. It's like, I personally would just be better at, or I would rather accept that I'm a generalist. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of specific solutions with humans will get solved with good general, like a lot of specific problems get solved with like general-esque stuff. Yes, there's
Yeah.
specificity in some of that stuff, but like when you look at it, a lot of this stuff is pretty general stuff that goes a long way, right?
Yeah. I think one of the most important skills that you can have, and like if you want to be successful, I think it's like the things that you know and like how much of an expert you are, like the breadth of your expertise, whatever, is not as important. It's just your general ability to like to vet other experts and like know when someone does or doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah,
I think that is a lot more important than like really like knowing the stuff yourself, just like having kind of a good BS detector, being able to like see like look for and find high quality information and like know when somebody's legit and that kind of thing. And then like build out a decent kind of network for yourself. Because I think the best thing that you can do for someone when they come to you with a problem is be like, I don't know, the best thing to do about that, but I know a guy or I know a girl.
yeah,
Like I know someone who knows exactly what is probably going on here, and I'm going to have a conversation with them and get back to you. Um, Being able to do that is like the best thing in the world, uh, because that is going to happen a lot. um,
yeah,
and I'd say the more, even like the more that I've personally learned, I feel like the smarter I get. It's not, I don't really end up solving any more problems. If anything, I like am better about knowing when I should probably get somebody else involved.
to
I
help,
probably
yeah.
actually solve a few less problems. But I detect that a little bit quicker. Like earlier on in the conversation, I'll be like, oh, I should probably refer out to this person. Whereas maybe before it would have taken me a little bit longer to realize I was out of my depth a little bit. And I just
Yeah.
find that happening more and sooner.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing, I just, as I've gotten more secure in like who I am and what I do, like, and I kind of just have even learned this from like the guy I utilize as a therapist, I found online, and he had like basically a course, and he talked about the nervous system, and like, just the things that are evidence based, but also some woo woo shit that just seems to help, and like, and then also just getting in touch with yourself from a spirit, like. But what he was constantly doing is like, he's in his 50s now, and he's like, yeah, like that's part of being a counselor, a teacher, a coach, is just, having listening first and foremost, but then having like resources. And I just realized like, oh yeah, like he's not like saying he's gonna solve every single aspect of what you're doing. And frankly, he's saying like it takes a lot of work to kind of figure yourself out and, get comfortable in your own shoes, which is like a big piece of what a lot of people are. But like that's where I'm at too. It's like here, like when somebody comes to me with a problem, it's like, hey, do you want my help solving it? Because that's also a big piece of it. There's a lot of people just interjecting like, I'm going to solve this problem for you into other people's life, and it's like, that's not how it works, right?
Yeah.
The person has to be kind of on board, and then it's kind of providing enough evidence that you can see their problem relatively clearly and you understand what they're talking about. But then, I deal with a lot of people with chronic pain, and like it's and not and most of these people are still training, they're still doing XYZ, but it's moans and groans that they're still trying to understand and come out with a new angle. And I'm trying to show them that I understand things and listen to them, but also just provide other perspectives so that they can learn from a slightly different angle, right?
Yeah. There's two other pieces with the like expressing uncertainty that I think is important for coaches to understand. One is like how you express uncertainty, I think is everything. You can like kind of panic and be like, I don't know. And like that's not going to make somebody feel very good. But if you can, express like, hey, I'm not really sure about this thing, here's what we do know from our conversation. I'm very confident in this, this, and this. I'm going to look into this for you and I'll get back to you. But in the meantime, I'm very confident that we can still put together a great plan with the information that we do have. And we're going to circle back on this other thing. Like just explaining it in that way, I think gives people a lot more confidence in you, versus like, people can hear the panic in your voice if you like are freaking out about what you don't know. I guess I combine the two things into one, but yeah, I think how we express uncertainty is just as important as like being honest about it in the first place.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I can't. Yeah, when you're just like, I'm not entirely sure, but like, we're gonna figure it out. And like, I also, this is what I can lean into. It goes a long way, right? It's huge. And
Yeah.
like, that's something that comes with wisdom, like with reps and wisdom and just kind of being confident. And again, that's why I like think principles are key, like being confident in some principles oriented approach, right? All right, there's a post on here from John Davis. This is something I want to just get into you in general, because I love this fucking post. But it's basically like you're having a conversation with him, and it's he the overly technical and supplement fueled runner that needs this shoe, this watch, this gel, da 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 da. Like so, the optimizer. Uh, they weirdly lose. They're so focused on all these externals that they kind of lose this psychological belief in themselves. It's like a big. That's how that post starts, right? But
Yeah.
that's just another thing I see. And I'm sure you do too. Obviously you do, but it's like the, I just think I always kind of have this mantra or this vision in my life that there's like some kid in Africa, like snatching 120 kilos in like barefoots, bare feet, those shittiest shoes you've ever imagined, right? And it's just because he's just fucking doing it, and like having fun and maybe he's physically gifted, but maybe it's just I also go back to like there was like one of my clients is he's in Europe and he's like, there's a gym not too far away from me where the general standard that is that like every woman that goes in there is in there snatching 60 kilograms within like 6 months. So it just becomes this norm. And whereas like where we're at in a lot of people's Instagram oriented stuff, XYZ is like I'll get to that level or I'll get that thing when I have like, what am I missing? Right. I got to optimize. What am I missing? What am I missing? When sometimes they're just missing like some fucking grit. And I'll say this to myself, some fucking grit and determination and like a little bit of patience. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I think with all the optimization stuff, I think it can be somewhat dangerous because the dark side of placebo is nocebo, right? Like you can
Yeah.
get some kind of benefit just from like believing in something, but then you take that thing away, and just the fact that totally innocuous or neutral thing is not present anymore can then have real negative performance effects. And in general, what I find with most kind of optimization trends is they're inherently unsustainable and don't stack well. And so you like do this one thing that you think helps and this other thing that you think helps, and you're like trying to do it all, and then you can't do it all, so now you're not doing this other thing, and then now like your performance is suffering because you can't do this thing that you think you should be doing, and like it quickly turns from a placebo benefit to like a nocebo harm, just because there's so many things that you could be doing better or like should be doing that now you're not doing, and like just knowledge of all these things that you should be doing that you're not doing, I think is sometimes more harmful than any like benefit you get from the one or two things that you are doing from that list of things. I don't know if that made sense. That was kind of
No,
a
100. Yeah. I
com
mean, it did. Yeah.
complicated description. Um, uh, but like I even experienced that myself, and like if I could go back in time, to myself as a younger athlete, it'd be one of the things that I would change. Is uh, I was so like detail oriented that I was so obsessed with like trying to find the like perfectly like individualized supplement stack, and like trying to find the perfect shoe to wear, and had the perfect warm up routine. I had all my workouts like in a spreadsheet. I was tracking all the variables and stuff like that. But then what I would find is if I would like travel for a race or something, and then now I can't eat the my like favorite pre-race meal than I usually do while on the road, and I'm like freaking out, like thinking like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to perform, without this. or you get into like a shitty hotel. Like I remember one race I went to, it was like a $50 a night Motel 6 on the side of the road in West Virginia that like reeked of cigarettes, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to run well tomorrow. Whereas now I'd be like, I mean, this kind of sucks, but I'll be fine. Like it's fine. Um, and so yeah, I think that's the one of the harms of optimization culture is you learn things that like maybe kind of sort of are bad for you, but you just like so over exaggerate all these effects in your head. And then
Dude,
yeah, you have this like
I have kind of, this has kind of dawned on me is that like I kind of got to the point where like, yes, screen time, not good, right? Being on your phone, or so like excessive screen time, no bueno. But I was like kind of in a phase where I'm like, fuck, like I'm on my phone, and I think it was this is a true thing. Like, but I think I was having an anxiety response to just like being on my phone for a little bit in the past couple months, and then I just kind of like in the last 2 weeks have been like, dude, you post on Instagram, you communicate with people on your phone, like. Yes, you shouldn't be on your phone for 7 hours a day. Like, if that's fucking happening, manage that. But being on your phone for 3 hours, like again, manage it, but like it's not it's not the end of the world for you. But like it's kind of that second arrow type of thing again. I was like, I was kind of conditioning myself to be like fucking having low level anxiety attacks from just getting on my phone. Like, I was like, damn, this is weird, right? And that's just the power of the human mind right there, right?
yeah, totally. I mean, I think like I've it's something I've done better in my life is like not staying up on my laptop and like working until like midnight or whatever. But I look
Yeah.
back at like a lot of the years when I was like kind of grinding a little bit harder with my business and stuff like that. And I would be up on my computer till like midnight and then like wake up at 5 to like go to the gym and train early morning clients and stuff like that. Um, dude, I would shut my computer screen at midnight and be like lights out deep sleep in like 2 minutes. I slept fucking
Yeah.
great. Like it
Yeah.
was it was
Yeah.
great, you know? And
The pendulum has swung to like everything is fucking bad for us. And we're like, oh shit, like, and it's like, oh, just do the thing you need to do, right?
yeah. And then I think to like other times when it's like the night before like racing a marathon or something like that, and I'll like get in bed at like 8 p.m. and just like lay there unable to sleep, just like staring at the clock till like 2 a.m. And it's so funny because like one situation is like totally not optimal, but like if you're tired enough, you're gonna fall asleep. Like work hard enough to be tired, I think is very important. Um, and then the other situation, like a lot of it is just this oh, I really need to sleep, and you're like really thinking about it, and then so you won't do it. Just like this like psychological pressure. And I think that same phenomenon, obviously not to the same extent as like the nerves of having a big event the next day, but I think this pressure we put on ourselves to like I know the importance of 8 hours of sleep, and then so you get in bed and it's like, your alarm's going off in like 6 hours, and then you just like start thinking about that instead of just like fucking relaxing and closing your eyes,
One of my favorite lines, one of my clients, she was a friend from undergrad. I played on the men's rugby team and she played on the women's rugby team, and like we kind of reconnected when I was starting my business, and uh just a super nice, caring, cool person. But like she just would start say, she like messaged me and she's like, had this happen, it'll buff. And she just kept like, every once in a while she just, it'll buff. And like, I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, it'll buff out. And I'm like, that is fucking awesome, because it's true. Like over time, a lot of good if you're doing, like you kind of got to figure out your inner compass. And I think this is what I see about like somebody like you. Like you have a giant platform. I mean, it's giant platform. You have a good platform. You have a business that's pretty dope. You're working on running sub 2:30 marathon and like staying pretty jacked. You're not pretty jacked, like you're jacked. Like people see you and they will be, well, I want to be like Alec Blenis. And it's like, cool, great, aspirational, motivational, inspirational. But like at the end of the day, just people have to find their own dharma, like their own, like, well, who are you? What are you? Who's your author? Like, what are you doing this for? Because that's kind of just what I've come to the realization. It's like, just fucking be Dave and have fun being Dave. And like you said earlier, like, yeah, life is just hopefully a pretty enjoyable hangout with some highs and lows, and then you pursuing stuff that gives you meaning and purpose and XYZ. But like just going back to in the aggregate, a lot of good stuff buffs out if you fucking just keep showing up, get intentional, set goals, and try hard while not being a giant asshole to yourself, right? And that goes a long way.
Yeah. The self-compassion is huge. It's another one of those therapy cliches, right? But like it is huge, just like being kind to yourself. I don't want to like sit here and try to like say that like I'm not having a good life or anything like that, because I have a lot of great things going for me. But I still think there's probably somebody out there who like looks at my page or like something that I'm doing and like views it as like aspirational or motivational, while like meanwhile like maybe they actually are like enjoying their day-to-day life more than I am, you know? And it,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you never know. You just don't know. I think you have to be really careful
There's
with
the
those
must be
comparisons.
nice crowd, right? There's the must be nice crowd, but then there's also the people who are just like legitimately, that's cool, but I'm also fucking happy doing what I'm doing, and that's cool too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've gotten better at that, and I get it's like kind of easier to say from a place of privilege. Like once you do get to a point where like you have a platform, you have a business, and it's really easy to like say that those things don't matter, right? So I realized the irony of that a little bit, but it's kind of like God, I'm filled with cliches today, like the parable of the Mexican fisherman. I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with that one,
No,
but
the
like
is
it
it the
is
one
like
that yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty
like the
sure.
whole
Or is
the
it the surfer? The surfer one? Is that same one where it's like, I wish I could surf all day, or I wish I could fish all day?
Exactly. Yeah. That's like what it's all about. Like the whole point. Like, I want to just like be successful so that I can like basically not do stuff, and just
Yeah.
like fill my time with things that I want to do. And there's a lot of people that just like do that from the beginning, and then like they don't have this success, but who fucking cares? Um, so I don't know. It's just a lot of paths to life. Um, I'm very grateful for like the choices I've made, and like I really enjoy the work that I do, and no matter how successful I want to get, or no matter how successful I get, I want to keep like stay in the fitness industry and keep helping people. But like also the goal is to like not be in the limelight and like having to produce content every day to pay the bills and that kind
Dude,
of stuff, right? Like
yeah, I mean, like, I kind of that's where some of the phone is like, would I, the necessary evil of marketing myself or whatever, and I could probably do it. I could, change some things up and make it more. There's a way, right? But then there's also this narrative of like the optimizer. Jake Tura posted like yesterday about just leveraging AI. And there's just these dudes who think that I'm just going to leverage AI, and like it's like that fucking repetitive. But it's like, yeah, probably. But like at the end of the day, like if I could do what I'm doing now with like, okay, so I've been just really into Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits' lead, or Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler, uh,
yeah, the
and
Money for Nothing was such a brilliant song.
dude, Money for Nothing is like the fucking I almost want to like I was thinking about this yesterday because I started putting like Money for Nothing on like 90% of my content like 2 years ago, and I want to like get to the afterlife or whatever. And like, Dave, like your only real accomplishment is that you started the trend of Money for Nothing being like super relevant in like 2023, because that riff is just so good. And I really never get fucking tired of it. But he basically, like, Mark Knopfler was like, yeah, I like left Dire Straits. I went on my own because like, it's like what we've been talking about. It's like I love the music. I love all this stuff, but like, who really wants to be fucking famous? Like, who really wants to like have people scrutinize their day to day life, or like, who really wants that? And I'm like, damn, man, it's like, it's because it's true. Like, you want to make the money, you want to play the songs, you want to have the crowds of people in front of you, but then you want to go home and fucking just be alone after it for like, or just chill with your family or your friends, right? And that's
Yeah.
kind of the game, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I can't even imagine what it is like for some people, because like here in Austin, Texas, like a decent amount of people know me. Like I'll get recognized from time to time, like out running or like at a restaurant or whatever, just because it's such a fitness city. And it's super cool. Like on the one hand, when people will come up and introduce themselves, I'm like, oh, sick. Like I like love hearing positive feedback from people. I think it's super cool. But then also like you sometimes you just like can't just like totally be yourself or like have a a private conversation in a public space because you're like, what if someone that like knows me is overhearing this conversation? You're like, that kind of stuff is like I can't imagine what it'd be like to like really be famous. That'd be hectic. But Money for
Yeah.
Nothing, man, that riff was banger. I love the just the irony of like the lyrics talking about like you know like these
Dude,
celebrities like just making a bunch of money for like nothing and they just drop like the most banger track of the decade basically like so cool.
do you know the origin of that song? Like he was in an appliance store and like the one of the workers was the MTV was on the whole bank of the TVs and he overheard this guy being like, "Man, must be nice to fucking just make, to be like to learn to play the drums or to play the guitar and like get chicks for not." It's like it's such a good fucking origin story for a song, right? It's incredible.
Yeah.
The music video is absolutely crazy too because it's like a 1980s like CGI or like video of it's so funny. So yeah, but also just there's a great riff of like Eric Clapton playing like backup guitar to Mark Knopfler. It's like just, that's like I'm coming up with this post in my brain and it's like if you want to help people with pain and injury, don't become like a physio or a chiro or a doctor. Just become a fucking musician and make banger ass songs that actually lift
Yeah.
people's soul. Right? Like that's the
100%.
shit
Yeah.
that really matters, right? So, okay, moving to like last couple questions here. Like moving to Austin because you were in Minnesota before, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
What's the transition been to like Austin, bigger city? I think you're training out of like Tim Riley's gym when you're doing in-person stuff. But how's that been? What's been cool about it? What's been hard or different or a challenge or change?
Yeah, I've lived in a couple different uh places over the last 10 or so years, and it's tough because like every time you move or like have an experience in a new city, like there's things that you love about a place and that you miss about a place, and then there's you move and then you like miss things, but then there's like more new stuff to love in the new place, right? Like there's pros and cons to all of it, and there's always like an excitement and a sadness that comes with any move like that. Moving to Austin has been interesting, and I think it's somewhat eye-opening. Like made me realize how much I appreciated about Minneapolis that I didn't fully appreciate while I was there. Especially just like how green and beautiful it is, how like quiet and relaxed it is. Like we went back to visit for a weekend, and I felt like I felt my cortisol drop, you know? I was like, oh wow, this is like way quieter and like more stress free than I remember when we were here. But then there's like so many cool things about Austin too, just like the fitness scene is insane. Like possibilities for collabs are unlimited. You walk in any gym here and you see like 10 people you know from Instagram and can have conversations with cool fitness people all the time. So that's super cool. The people just in Austin in general, I feel like it's extremely friendly. A lot of like very positive, seemingly authentic interactions like all over town. Was kind of surprised. Like it took me and my wife like a couple weeks to get used to just like people like striking up conversations more than we were accustomed to. So that's been pretty sick. Uh, it's fucking hot. Like I am
Yeah.
originally from Atlanta, so like not a big stranger to heat hills and humidity, but Austin is worse for sure. This summer of training and running has been pretty brutal. Uh, Not gonna lie. There's been plenty of days when I'm just like, why am I training for a marathon in the summer in Austin, Texas? Like what choices did I make in my life that got me to this point? You know? Um, but yeah, on the whole, it's been sweet. Tim's gym here at I'm actually here right now. I'm recording this at this gym. It's been sick. He's done a great job with it. Um, so yeah, I don't know. A lot of pros and cons. It's sweet. I would definitely recommend anyone that's interested in fitness, and especially if you like are in kind of the more of the online fitness scene or you're a fitness influencer, aspiring influencer, whatever, definitely make a trip through Austin.
I I have every once in a while I'll get like some physio or trainer or just somebody, who will comment on something. There's just one that's always stuck out in my mind. It's like, fitness and physio peaked, 20 years ago. There's nothing new under the sun. And like, on some level, I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree. I do agree with you, but like, I had a 70-year-old lady in here today, like working on back squats and RDLs, and like it's cool. Like, it's like there's a new iteration all the time. But like, what keeps you? And I sometimes get jaded about like the state of the AI slop and bullshit. People showing videos of discs bulging and like Achilles rupturing. But like, what keeps you optimistic about just being in fitness for the future, continuing to do what you're doing? Because you mentioned it. Like, that's another thing. I was like, I'm 38. I'm not over the hill. I honestly weirdly believe that like I have my best days and it's probably some of it's just like fucking just doing what I want to do. I think I'm finally at 38 being like, just do what the fuck you want to do, dude. Like, it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry about what Will Rattel is doing. Like, and though Will Rattel is pretty beastly, awesome dude. It's like, you can follow him and learn from him, but like, that guy's a fucking D1 athlete, could have played linebacker probably somewhere. Like, just fucking do you, right? But what
Yeah.
keeps you
Yeah.
engaged and curious and moving forward in like the fitness space when, like, let's be honest, we do have people talking about how bananas are fucking, you shouldn't eat bananas or XYZ, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, you know, people will say things like, fitness peaked at whatever decade, or like there's no new information. We're all just regurgitating stuff, and like, let's play devil's advocate here. So what? Like, what if nothing changes? What if there's no new information for the next 50 years? That doesn't make our jobs or what we're doing any less important. I think about how much fitness has done for my life, and like how much value I got out of information that was probably decades old.
Yeah,
Like I like reading T Nation articles when I was 13, like changed my life, dude.
yeah,
And so even if nothing does change, just like being part of what continues to bring that information to the next generation of people, and like using what we have available to help people, I think is great. Even if there is absolutely zero progress, in terms of like the industry overall, like there's always new people to reach. And so just focusing on that, like reaching new people with the information that we do have, is often more important than moving the information that we have forward. And I think so many people are so academic that they get so caught up in like wanting to move the industry forward, or like advance our knowledge or advance their knowledge, like they want to improve, that they forget like the whole point is not for us to improve, it's for other people to improve. And sometimes that doesn't require that we learn anything, or that, the industry advances at all. We just have to keep fucking running the play, and get better at how we communicate to people and get better at how we reach people. Because right now, in the US, for example, the amount of people meeting basic physical activity guidelines is still very low, and we don't need any new information to make those numbers a lot higher than they are. And so I guess what keeps me excited every day is knowing that there's still billions of people out there that need more fitness in their life, and I don't think I have to learn anything else beyond what I already know to help get to some of those.
yeah, yeah. That sentiment, I love that right there. And like, yeah, I think that's one of the things I've I got into. I've been down the path that there is a way to do things. And now, as I am just becoming more mature and just like, it's like, no, there's a shit ton of ways to do a lot of stuff. And it's like, where do we, it is cliche, like you said, like, but it's like, how do I meet the person where they're actually fucking at? And how do most of being like a good coach is like trying to be a better communicator, is like trying to hear what they're actually, or to ask questions so that they can actually get out what they need to get out so that you can prescribe or do XYZ. And that's also a super long conversation. Yeah, people's goals shift around, people's life shifts around a lot, but like most of it is like being good at a lot of the jobs that like people think they want to get into. Like, I thought being a physio, like I was a CrossFit coach and a trainer, and I thought being a physio would just be more marketable from like if I owned a gym. And I'm not wrong, per se, but it's like it's still just the same game of learn, communicate, listen, and then try to help the person where they're at, right? And whether that
Yeah,
means that they stay with you for a long time, or that means you're just part of the overarching path, like that's okay. You'll be okay, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the big like you're starting a business, you're starting to grow, you're trying to do like you'll be okay by not being a manipulator. Like that's the other big thing I think. You don't have to fucking be a manipulator of people to succeed in life, right? You probably feel better doing it that way, right?
Yeah. I would say one of the like biggest hurdles for me when I was a really young personal trainer uh was literally just I think because of my age and there being a larger age gap between like me and my clientele was like just like being relatable and having good conversations between sets and them like enjoying spending time with me.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that I think as I got, older and like had more experience in those situations too, in those conversations, that's definitely one thing. But just becoming a better conversationalist, and being able to relate to people across a wider range of ages and stuff like that. I think that helped my coaching probably more than like any, weekend workshop or physiology fun fact.
yeah, yeah. Good point. Beautiful. Hey, I appreciate this conversation. Thanks so much for being here, Alec. Where do people find you?
Yep, just find me Instagram/YouTube at Alec Blenis. Um, I've been pumping out more long form content. Took a little break this month. Got some more long form stuff coming back to YouTube very soon. So check me out both places. If you need programs, coaching, consults, all that kind of stuff, you can find it on my IG bio. But thanks for having me, Dave. Always a pleasure. Thanks.
Dude, appreciate you a ton. Thanks, everybody. Peace.